Well, good morning, everyone. And once again, welcome to another live this morning. Nice to have you come on with us, and hope you're getting your notices from Facebook. Georgie, good morning. Number one on the hit parade this morning, Georgie. Halifax, right? And Jen, good morning. Nice to have you on. Mike, how are you? Norland. Good to have you, Mike. Okay, guys. Joanne, good morning. Kevin, in New Brunswick. Kevin, you're traveling, right? And it's rainy in New Brunswick this morning, or at least the part you're in. Isabel, good morning. How are you? Fran, how you doing? Nice to have you on. Debraka from Mississauga. And much appreciated. Wendy, good morning. And nice to have you on this morning. And Fran, Orangeville, another Viderma Day in Orangeville. Same here with Sudbury. We've had the sun for about a week now straight. Roma, good morning. And Fran is saying in Valcaron, yeah, which is in our backyard here. Sunny. Pat, good morning. Mary. And, okay, a few more. Elma, good morning. Kincardine. Annette, Nouveau-Brunswick. And let me see here. A few more. Okay. Diane, Thunder Bay. Scroll is slow this morning. I don't know why. Olga, I have no idea. Lennis. Well, that's the first time I've seen your name. Lennis, so welcome. We appreciate it. Debbie. Debbie Ann. Lori, good morning. And Donna. See how slow that scroll is? A couple more. Yalan, bonjour. We're going to get going here. And Kathleen. Hey, some new names that I haven't seen before this morning. Good. We appreciate that. Linda, good morning. Kelly, we've seen your names in the past, and we thank you for being faithful to watch the program. Sue and Lynn, nice to have you on. Kadijatu. I don't know, I probably murdered that name, but we welcome you. Sylvie, good morning to you. Evangeline, okay. Thank you very much for watching. I know a lot of you don't even say hello. You don't have to, of course, but we appreciate it. Helen and Lise, good morning to our viewers this morning. Thank you. And Helena. Andrea, good morning. From Newfoundland. We love Newfoundland. Regina. And a couple of more here as we get going here. I want to read to you, I'm just going to read to you the headline. And Sandra, we appreciate it. No, you do get it right. Okay. That's good. That's you thanking me for getting her name right. My, oh my. Guylaine, bonjour. Regina, good morning. Cheryl. And one more. Who's next? Boy, that scroll this morning is slow. I mean it. Kevin saying hello to everyone. Okay. Now let me read this. This is from a Dr. Ellen Vora. The reason I read this article, and she makes the head of the headline of the article is this. Okay? Written by a Dr. Ellen Vora, medical doctor. Here's what she's saying, okay? Exercise is a more effective antidepressant than any medication we have on the market. Let me read that headline to you again. Exercise is a more effective antidepressant than any medication we have on the market. And you know what? I'm not even going to argue with her. I like it. Here's the problem I have with it. When a person is depressed, you can't get them to exercise. They're depressed. They have clinical depression. And usually, although I agree with this dear doctor, if you can get them to exercise, it would be one of the best and better medications that they could take. Much better than SSRIs Prozac, and others, which, by the way, were meant to be temporary. Never approved. The FDA never approved. I was there, not on the FDA, of course, but I was around in the 1970s when antidepressants really hit the marketplace. And they were meant to be temporary, never meant to be long-term. But I often want to talk, when I look at depression, okay, when I look at mental health, and depression being one of the most serious issues in mental health, and I'm not discounting bipolar, I'm not discounting schizophrenia. I'm not discounting any of that. I'm just saying that depression is often talked about being a chemical imbalance. Look, I understand why they say that. But what comes first, the chicken or the egg? How do you get a chemical imbalance? And I want to talk to you today because I read this article. I found it interesting that here is this medical doctor who's saying something very important, that exercise, vitamin E, you know that on our Martin Clinic vitamin list, the real vitamin E is exercise because it beats the other vitamin E big time. It's so good for everything, including your mental health. That I agree. That I agree with, 100%. And like I say, the problem is, when you get someone that is clinically depressed, by the time they get to that, it's hard to get them to exercise. Now, let me say a few things because we're going to unpack this morning. It's not that we have never talked about it. Of course we have. But it's good to refresh our brains on depression. Go in your mind's eye and think of anyone you know in your family or friends or whatever that are depressed. Here is what I observed over the years. Okay? Here's what I've observed over the years. I've often said this to you. I'm a history guy. I'm a history guy. So if someone came in the office and they were depressed, they literally, and usually been diagnosed already with depression. They were on medications. They never came to see me first. They usually came to see me last. And oftentimes they would come in, not even for necessarily for depression, but for other problems, other health problems. but they were clinically depressed. They were, we used to take a list of medications. And I would often ask them, well, why are you on this med? Obviously, you're not on an SSRI unless you've been treated for depression. And they're still on it. And here's what I found over the years as I unpack mental health, depression. I want to talk to you about etiology. You know what that is? Why? Why are they depressed? Why does a person in your family suffer with depression? I'm a why guy. Why? And here's what I found over the years. And by the way, looking forward, I'm not going to paint a pretty picture. Looking forward. Because everything that is in the background of depression, we're not tackling, plus we're going to see a tsunami of mental health issues. We're already seeing it. It's not going to get better. In my opinion, it's going to get worse. So let's equip ourselves to understand it. Let's get into the background of it. Here's clinically what I saw. And mental health has an etiology. Now, let me say this too. 90-something% of the patients that I saw with clinical depression started the whole ball of wax with anxiety. The drip of cortisol over a period of time. Anxiety leads to depression. It's very, very, very common in depression that anxiety comes first. Anxious, stressed, the drip of cortisol. Cortisol is the uptight. Now here's what I found over the years clinically, almost without exception, because I would test for these things. People that were depressed had a history, most of them, not all, but over 90%, a history of antibiotic use. And the reason I knew that, again, I was a history taker. I wanted to know your history, even of your childhood. Were you on medication as a child? Were you on antibiotics? Quite a bit. Ear infections, throat infections, whatever. Teenagers, acne. Were you on antibiotics? Yes. Period of time? Yes. Off and on? Yes. It was so common you wouldn't believe it. Now, what is the link to that? Well, the link is between your gut and your brain. The gut and the brain. We call that leaky gut. You take antibiotics, wonderful. Really, they're wonderful. Medicine has done some wonderful things. One of them is the creation of antibiotics. Wonderful. I mean it. But the double-edged sword. It changes the microbiome. The bacteria, the friendly bacteria, are being overwhelmed by bad guys. The change. What does that do? Well, listen, it's really important to understand this. You got more hormones in your gut than you have in your brain. People think mental health is only brain. Your gut has a lot to do with your brain. The bacteria in your brain and the bacteria in your gut communicate. You got more serotonin, dopamine in your gut than you have in your brain. It's the way it is. And people don't talk about that. They never talk about the gut-brain connection. And then, by the way, you're connected, your brain to your gut. You ever had butterflies? You're nervous? Why does your stomach bother you if you're nervous? Think about that. I got the butterflies. I got to do public speaking or whatever bothers you, right? You're worried. You're anxious. Family dynamics. You got butterflies in your stomach. How does that happen? Well, it's the connection between the brain and the gut. Goes both ways. You're connected by the vagus nerve, not Las Vegas, Vegas. The 10th cranial nerve. You get butterflies. And this is why, for me, when I was looking at etiology, why, a lot of times in mental health, you look at the history and find there's a connection, antibiotics. There's a connection to stress. Either a stressful impact, a one-time event, traumatic, never been resolved, and it can create a cascade of problems in mental health. The gut. And again, I used to test for leaky gut. Leaky gut, leaky brain. Right? And so that can be a big problem. It's what I used to observe constantly in the mental health area, in clinical depression. Here's another thing that I used to say. Extremely low, almost invariably, with vitamin B12. Extremely low, almost invariably, with vitamin B12. B12, my friend, is a brain vitamin. B12, my friend, is a neurological vitamin. You won't hear me talking about the B vitamins as much as you'll hear me talking about B12. Why is that? Because I used to test. And today, even though I'm out of practice, if you want to send me your B12 numbers, the vast majority of people are low in B12. And that can be for several reasons. One of them is people, I was reading a food chart. It gave me a migraine. Let me just find it for a second here. Where did I put it? Right at the end of my notes. Hold on a minute. Let me get it. Oh, I tell you guys, the ranking system. There's a conference coming in nutrition, a White House conference. Big deal on nutrition. The guy that's at the head of it, he rated food out of 100. 100 being the best, and, downward. You know what he rated number 1 on the hit parade? Watermelon. Now, I like watermelon. But if that's your number 1 food source, you're in deep trouble. And by the way, you know what he had number 3? Frosted mini wheats. They rated 87 out of 100. You know what was on the bottom of his scale? ground beef at 26. Guys, I just got severe inflammation in the head. A severe headache. He's going to be the head of the conference on nutrition, the White House conference on nutrition in September. Oh my word. Why didn't they invite me? I would have ground beef and steak at 100. You know that. People don't eat enough of it because they've been lied to. And here's my experience with clinical depression. They were extremely low in B12. They weren't eating steak. They were buying the lie of salad. Folks, can I say something? Kale, it don't do nothing for your brain. Nothing, honey. You want brain food? Don't eat kale. And don't eat, well, you can have watermelon, but don't eat it for your brain. Because it don't do nothing for your brain. There's no B12 in that. Low in B12. And by the way, B12 is a very finicky vitamin. I've taught you that. It's a large, molecular, structured vitamin. On the best of days, not easy to absorb. If you have the lack of intrinsic factor, low stomach acidity and blah, 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 blah. A lot of people are low in B12 and they don't know it because no one tells them. Or they get a blood test that's 100 years old. Oh, your B12, it's good. It's in the 200s. 200s is good for mice, not for men and women and boys and girls. Vitamin B12. It sets you up for depression. A lot of other things too. A lot of other neurological issues. But it is a big factor in mental health. Leaky gut. Usually because of antibiotics. Usually. Low B12. Low vitamin D. Extremely low in vitamin D. Depressive patients were extremely low in vitamin D. Oh, the great vitamin D. Viderma. My friend, you and me are solar panels. We operate on vitamin D. Your brain to your toes. Your brain to your immune system. Your brain and your heart. Your brain and your gut. Vitamin D. Viderma. The sun. Of course, when they're depressed, they don't want to go in the sun. It's a vicious cycle. They don't even know. Nobody tells them they're low in vitamin D. They don't even check it. Like when you go, oh, you're depressed. Here's meds. Not looking for deficiencies. We need more Dr. McEwens out there. No, seriously. To understand the etiology of depression, mental health, schizophrenia, bipolar, deficiencies. I would scream it on my radio show for 20 years. Deficiencies. It's amazing the results we used to get. If you could get, the problem was compliance. You get a depressive patient. The problem was compliance. I used to get them, look, please do the reset. Get off all sugars. You have a malabsorption. You're not getting vitamin D. You're not getting, you got leaky gut. You're not getting vitamin D. You're not getting B12. Of course, we're going to supplement these things now, but you got to do it. And doc, when I don't feel good, I just want to have junk all the time. I need a quick fix of sugar. I can't even think about eating properly. I know, but if you want to get out of this cycle, food is going to be everything, man. It's going to be everything. We're going to top up your B12. We can top up your vitamin D. We can help you with fixing leaky gut. But you got to help yourself. It's not easy because, like I said, they're down. Their chemistry is mixed up. But why? I want to answer the why. Here's another thing that I found. Extremely low in essential fatty acids. Extremely low in essential fatty acids. These folks, God love them, were extremely low in good oil. They had oil in their body. They had bad oil. Because you don't feel good, you're a junk eater. When you're a junk eater, you're eating not only sugar and crappy carbohydrates, but the way those carbohydrates are made, the crappy carbohydrates, are made with industrial, high in omega-6 oil. What does that do? It inflames the brain. Omega-6, the brain gets inflamed. Now you have biochemistry gone amok in the brain with the wrong oil. Now, what doctors talk about that? They were consuming the wrong oil. They had extremely low levels of essential fatty acids. Your fatty acid, you need the omega-3. Don't ever worry about omega-6. You're getting too much of that. We live in a world today, it's omega-6 crazy. And those industrial oils, from canola to soy to grapeseed to sunflower seed and blah, 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 blah. You think they're natural? They're not natural. They are made in a vat. They're industrialized. You run your car on that stuff. Remember I brought to you that story where they ran a plane? They used that fuel for a plane. Wow. Well, it's not meant for your body, guys. Very inflammatory. And when the brain gets inflamed, you got sparks going the wrong way. The grid is upside down. You're misfiring. Why do we see so much of it today? Why do we see so much, even in kids? Not only depression, why do we see so much ADD and ADHD and so much of that? Kids that can't focus, autism, on the spectrum. Their brains, they're getting the wrong oil. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a light that would go off on the top of the head, a little sensor that said, you're consuming the wrong oil, my friend. You want DHA, you don't want omega-6. That's not good for my brain. Low in essential fatty acids. Usually low in trace minerals like magnesium. Magnesium makes the brain relax. Listen, I'm not just a magnesium guy. I like magnesium, you know that. But magnesium is really important because most people are deficient in it. They don't get it in their diet. So I used to look at trace minerals, dehydration, the brain, the dehydration. When I say dehydration, you know what I think about water, guys, vitamin W. You know what I think about that, how important that is. And oftentimes, by the way, in depression, people were very dehydrated. They didn't realize it. Their body was yelling at them, but they weren't listening. They didn't know how to listen. And of course, most of these folks, they had every bad habit in the world because they didn't exercise. You know, that was the headline this morning. Exercise, vitamin E, is better than SSRIs. It's better. But the problem is compliance. Much easier to take a pill than to take the pill of exercise. It's not easy to get moving when you don't feel good. And you know, part of my job in the clinic was to motivate, was to try as much as I could. I couldn't go home with a patient, but I tried as much as possible to make them accountable, either to their family, to me to some extent, to check in with me. And the vicious cycle of mental health. It really is. And the idea is to get them out of it. And I wanted this morning just to be able to teach this, because I read an article like that and I don't disagree with this doctor. I say, thank you, doc, for thinking outside the box, man. Look, we've tried the mental health way that we do it, and it's been a disaster. Nobody really wants to say that, but it has been a disaster. We have more mental health issues than ever, because people are not asking the question, why? And what is missing? What's missing in these patients? Why did they get this in the first place? It's not genetics. It isn't. Now, look, I like you have depression in your family. Yeah, it's like diabetes. I got lots of diabetes in my family. Lots of it. That makes me more susceptible. For sure. 100%. But you got to override genetics. We have the ability to override your genetic. Your dad had a heart attack. Your mother had heart disease or cancer, whatever you had. It makes you, probably more susceptible. Genetics is 3 to 5% more susceptible. It's a weakness. I was telling a friend the other day, I don't try and fool myself. Okay? I only have to look in the mirror. Okay? Especially the older I get, I look like my dad. If I put a hat on, I really look like my dad. Tony Jr. don't look like me. Okay? As far as I'm concerned. When I look at my son, he don't look like me. But I saw a picture the other day. And I don't know if I didn't have, I don't think I had my glasses on. So I couldn't see it that well. I thought it was a picture of me. It was a picture of my son. I thought that was me. But here's the point. Genetics are weakness. Look in your family and see what your weaknesses are, health-wise, and override them. Like I said, in me, it's insulin. It's diabetes. So what do? I don't fool myself. I don't talk myself out of that. So it doesn't matter what I eat. Nah, it really matters what I eat. I learned a lesson back in the 1960s watching my dad after diabetes. And if mental health issues are big in your family, you got to take care of that. That can be a weakness, big time. You got to fix that. You got to override it. And that's why I brought to you today what I saw. The gut. The gut-brain connection. Fix your gut, my friend. Fix your gut. Everybody should fix their gut. But if you got any tendency for depression, you better fix your gut. Fix your B12. Fix your vitamin D. You can do it. Fix the right oil. Change oils. Do an oil change on your brain. Give it the good oil. It's amazing what happens. Time for an oil change. Okay. Guys, do we appreciate you or what? Absolutely do. Thank you for our audience. We appreciate it. Big time. Okay? Now remember what Friday is. What's Friday? Question and answer Friday. Right? We're going to have fun before we get there, but when we get to Friday, we know we're going to have fun. And people... it's always a popular program when we answer questions. Love to do it. Love to pontificate. Send in your questions. We're going to answer them on Friday. Share this, folks. You got people with depression, share it. It'll come out as a podcast very shortly. Get them to download it on their smartphones. The Doctor is in podcast. Thank you for making that so popular. We appreciate that big time too. Okay? Okay, guys. We love you dearly and we'll talk to you soon.